welcome to Head Shepherd. So 200 episodes. It's back in 2020 we started a podcast because while we were in COVID we couldn't do anything else. So I was out for a run one day and decided I would start a podcast. Sounded like a good idea at the time. We're now 200 episodes deep, so this is a really special occasion for me and great to be sharing with Dawson Bradford, who I've been a long time fan of and mate of, and so it's awesome to be here with Dawson. We've got a few prepared questions. We can do it pretty loosely. If you've got anything from the crowd, shout out a question. We're happy to share that and do it on the fly. I haven't told Dawson that yet, but that's fine. He's used to that from me. But yeah, it's a great occasion for us, and thanks all for being here, and thanks for those watching along at home. So, Dawes, over 1,300, 1,500 delegates, I think we heard yesterday here at Lambex. You must be pretty proud of what this event has become. I guess what were you hoping for when you started an event in Perth back in 2010?
What we were trying to achieve was just a celebration of 10 years at Ramco, which was a big cooperative that I chaired at the time, and thinking that maybe we'll have just some of our members celebrate in a shearing shed or something like that, get a couple of hundred together. Anyway, I talked it over with Esther Jones, and she came up with something better than that. She said, no, why not involve the whole breeders in this state? And she said, well, hang on, what about making it Australia-wide, make it worthwhile? And it's just grown from there. But what I really was trying to do was to bring our producers together with the processors and the retailers and get an understanding through the whole industry as to what each other's problems are, and open communication lines. And I think that's what we've got here.
Fantastic, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's been it's an absolute testament to look around last night and yesterday and today. It's when we got so many people coming together, so many people just celebrating a fantastic industry, and it's awesome. Dawes, you started a non-wool performance sheep, now known as the Ultrawhite. It was well before most people were thinking of it. I 100% told you were crazy at the time. I remember that. I've been wrong on many things, and that's just another one. And history is the best judge. So why were you so sure that the way back in when you started 18 years ago or so, why were you so sure that was going to be the way of the future?
Yes, that was back in 2005. I started a little bit earlier than that, but it was something about the breeding of sheep. And at the time I said I was chairman of WAMCO, and we'd had the bioscan, which just been promised to us, and the ability to be able to see what we're producing, and hopefully I was interested in the eating quality and intramuscular fat at the time. And so, well, it would be great if we can just make this a breed that's going to concentrate on production of meat, of good quality meat, and forget about the wool, which was a problem for us at the time, and nothing's changed. But also we had a stud of Pole Dorsets that was doing fairly well, so really I just wanted to get the wool off them, and I thought that's the way we'd probably go.
Yeah, and I guess that's what most people saw, was when you're an industry-leading Pole Dorset stud, and not many people throw it away when you're at the top of the game, but obviously it was your time for a new challenge. You were pretty young back then, and so you had plenty of time left to hook into it. What have been the highs and lows of starting a new sheep breed? It's something that not many people have can sort of write on their CVs. So what would you recommend to someone who was going to do it if you did it again?
Yeah, well, the first thing you've got to have is, if you're starting in something new, is you've got to have a fairly thick skin, because the criticism I got at the time, particularly from neighbours, when they saw our sheep shedding them or losing their wool when rubbing on fences, you're bringing lice into our country. We've caught lice from you. Well, that's nothing, quite far from the truth, because they don't harbour lice. But also, about not doing the right thing by the industry, the wool industry. We're destroying that because of contamination, the wool effect. But they're the sort of things you just have a thick skin and it washes over. But the highs are when we got crossbreeding, as I said, we just wanted to get the wool off the sheep. That was my main aim. But then we found things coming through, like the hardiness of the Dorper came through. It didn't come through in the first cross, but it came through in the second cross when we had to put another cross of Dorper back in to get the wool off. And we found the hardiness that was, it's just stood out. stood out in a drought that we had in 2010. And other things just came to the fore, like small lambs. In the Dorsets, as you push growth, your birth weights go up, and that becomes a real problem. But with these, we started with such a low birth weight, but they were so viable. I think they're the highs that came on.
I'm going to go off script because that's what I do, but that hardiness, how important is that in a Mediterranean farming environment, and that animal that can kind of carry the spring through into the autumn?
It's great because we lamb 3 times a year, and certainly at times when they lamb, particularly in March and early April, things are fairly tough, or can be. They were very tough this year. So the survivability is very high on these lambs. So long as you give them a fair go, they'll survive. And the will to survive is very high. And the other thing we like about them, because we're running a fair-sized property, is the bigger paddocks. The lambs are mobile within an hour or so, whereas the whole Dorsets, which we were used to, weren't mobile for probably 6 or 7 or 8 hours, and that increased the survival.
Dawson, you're a lifetime learner. Back, 10 years ago, I came across a gene that I thought would be handy, and I knew you were looking for a fecundity gene, and so the GDF9 variant, which sort of floats around in fin sheep at about 15% or so, you introduced that gene into, so now called the H+ gene. What's bringing a new gene into, or having to get rid of 2 sheep breeds that came from a Coopworth Texel cross, so a pretty tough animal to take the wool off. But yeah, what's that taught you about sheep breeding?
Yes, that's taught me a lot. It's taught me that I didn't know very much before. It's the challenge of bringing together 4 breeds and stabilising the type. You think you've got it under control, and then also a wildcard comes in from one of the other 4 breeds, and it disrupts the whole lot again. And you've virtually got to keep at it. We're not through it yet, but it's getting quite good. But there's so many variables that happen in there that is out of your control. The biggest thing you've got to do is just keep your eyes about to be aware of what you're producing, be aware of the faults that are showing up, because they'll show up, and get rid of them as quick as you can. And you move from that. Every year you're wondering what fault you're going to come against next. But that's the way that the breeds are developed. So if you go back and think about breeds like the Southdown and Suffolk, they must have gone through hell to get those breeds established. But they had 200 years to do that. We're trying to do it in 10 or 15. So.
I thought you had another 200 left in your doors. Yeah.
I wish.
Maybe we just do talk about the H+ gene. So it's a variant that we're expecting sort of 20% in a single carrier and 40% increase in a double carrier. Is that what you're seeing at home?
We're seeing something like that. When we did desktop searches on it, well, I'll go a bit back further. We tried the Infidel gene, which had a problem. It certainly gave us about 50% increase in lambing with just 1 copy. Unfortunately, 2 copies, you had a barren ewe or an infertile ewe, so it just wasn't practical. If I was just breeding sheep for myself, you could manage it, but not to breed seed stock. So we didn't think we were going to find this gene that was going to just give us twins, very few triplets, and the odd single. If we wanted to lift our lambing percentage up around the 100, probably scanning up around the 190, 200, and it's probably a survival around about 160 to 170%. We do about 135, 140 now, so it was a jump of about 40% we're looking for. Well, the little bit of research we've done so far, only on small numbers, but it looks as though 1 copy is going to give us somewhere between 20 and 25% increase. 2 copies, we haven't had even less opportunity to test that, but it looks like that could be around 40. Good conditions, probably 50%. So, and I'm talking about wean lamb, so it's going to give us somewhere around about that 170% with reasonable management.
Dawson, your previous predictions of the future have worked out pretty well. I guess we may as well share what you think the most exciting development in the sheep industry is now. How are we going to evolve in the next 10 years? If we're sitting back here in 10 years' time, what are we looking back at?
Yes, there's a couple of fronts I can see coming up, and one was alluded to this morning by at the pre-conference session there about the access of more genomics. What we're going to be able to do with that is improve performance by so much by being able to get rid of our lower grade sheep, being more predictable what we're using to breed our lambs from, and the ability to go through our maternal flock and take off the bottom 20% is going to be huge. That's exciting, but the other one is eating quality. I think if we're going to achieve the prices that were spoken of yesterday, $10 a kilo within 2 years or something it was, we've got to be able to justify to our customers that they're getting good value for their dollar. The only way I can see we can do that is we've got to get a handle on the eating quality and be consistent about it. It's awful to find to produce a few that are well, they've got high IMF and good shear force. We've got to produce a whole flock that's doing that. And that's going to take some doing, but with the new technology that I believe we heard about this morning, that's going to be very possible. The other one is, I think, it's the eating quality, it's the nutrient density of the food that we're producing. And we heard Annalene say yesterday in her presentation the need for good quality, high density food to maintain good health to the people that are eating it. And I think that's where we're falling down, because I've read, and you people probably have too, there's the nutrient density in a lot of our food is only about 50% of what it was 50 years ago. So that must have played out in our health, and I believe that is happening. So that's one of the challenges, and I think it's something we can master if we put our mind to it.
Yeah, no, awesome. I'm not sure if you've got the answer to this question yet, Dawson, but what is the last thing you changed your mind about?
Yeah, well, after last night, I'm not sure. I don't know who to trust now. But no, seriously, I think, I think listening to the presentation this morning, I thought I knew a fair bit about genetics and trying to master them. I think I have to change my mind. I don't know very much yet at all, so hopefully that'll change in the near future.
You've got plenty of time left, mate, to learn a few more things. It's awesome. It's been great to have you up here, Dawson. Any questions from the crowd? If there's anyone got a question? No? All quiet? Excellent. Thanks Dawson. Thanks very much for your time. It's awesome to be up here and share the 200th episode of Head Shepherd. It'd be remiss for me not to mention Sophie Barnes, who will be sitting at home wishing she was here. Absolute sheep nerd, loves sheep like more than oxygen almost, and has been shoulder to shoulder with me the entire time for Head Shepherd. I think I edited the first 5 or 6, and I was really bad at that. Listening to your own voice for 3 hours is possibly the worst thing you can do. And so Sophie has just taken that role over, and she is awesome. She produces this podcast, she sets up the interviews, she runs the whole show really. I'm just here to sit up here and ask her a few random questions, but Sophie is the brains and real power behind Head Shepherd, so big hats off to her. She'll be cringing when she listens to this, when she gets this audio, but thanks very much for your time, Dawson. Thanks very much to the Lambex committee for enabling us to run our 200th episode here. It's a real highlight for me. It's a great event, great to be here, but thanks very much for our listeners as well. We love hearing from our listeners. We get 3,500 downloads a week. I don't know how we make that 10,000, but that's certainly my aim. And it's been a really great thing for me to do personally. And thanks to all of those that listen along. And I love people that come up and shake my hand and say they've got something out of one of the episodes. It's a really, really great thing to do. But thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of Lambex.
Thanks very much.